Wizards Postgame Live.
Tough day at the office on the road in TD Garden, home of the Boston Celtics, where Jason Tatum went off for 23 points in 27 minutes. And he wasn't the only one to have such an efficient output. Final score 112-94. Wizards fall by 18 to the Celtics. Wes Hall here with Glenn Consor on a throwback night on the road. Glenn, a lot to talk about. I think this game was brought to you by the number 3 and the letter D. You will understand how we break that down in a moment. You get to pick, what do you want? One door, though. Don't cover the whole game, Glenn. Pick one thing that you think stood out for you in this loss.
I think defensively the pop wasn't there.
Fair.
And I think it has to be there for this team to be effective. And you got to minimize space on three-point shooters, and you got to dig in when guys have the ball, and you got to bump and tag when guys cut through. I didn't see that pop. I think defense a lot of times adds pace to a game, and the Wizards needed that tonight. And they were just flat on defense.
To that point, I know I asked you about one thing, but I do want to keep this going as well.
I got a lot more.
I know.
You want it?
Sure, give me another one. Why? Fire away.
Well, I also think they settled on offense.
Okay.
You know, I don't think the ball moved enough, and I think it needs to go from side to side. I think they need to run pick-and-roll plays. How many pick-and-roll plays, which actually we highlighted in the pregame show,
yes, we
did we see? You know, it creates mismatches. It creates spacing, even if it's not open. The ball wasn't moving. There was no hockey assists, and it was a lot of one pass and it was up. The ball stayed on one side. Very difficult to well, first of all, the Celtics didn't really need to defend when the ball is not moving, and that, I think, really hurt the Wizards.
And let's be honest, that first quarter of the game, when you score 15 points and the other team comes out on fire, it automatically puts you behind the 8 ball. The ability to be able to recover when the other team is shooting threes at such a high clip. Boston shot 47 threes.
Right.
They made 21 of them, shooting 45% for the night, but 47 threes. What does that tell the other team when you're having a bad shooting night and the other one just keeps letting it fly? What does that do to a player? What do you think?
You know, to me, you got to dig in, and that means you got to make some adjustments if a team is shooting that kind of volume from three. Forget about the makes. Think about the volume behind that. What is that? About 45% of their shots were from 3. So you think about that, and you think about what this team looks like. Look at all the space that they got. There was no challenge into the motion of a jump shot. You know, Malcolm Brogdon came in, 23 points in 23 minutes.
Efficient.
He was efficient. I don't even remember him scoring that, maybe 1 or 2 buckets, but he did. But they moved the ball. The Wizards were late to meet the pass, and I think that really hurt them.
I want to bring in Chris Miller and Drew Gooden, our in-game crew, for today's call. I'm looking forward to hearing what their thoughts are on this. Guys, first of all, good call in Boston. I know you guys want to hurry up and get out of there so you can get back here to D.C. But let's talk about this game. One thought from each of you about what really stood out about how the Wizards just weren't able to get on track, Drew.
Bingo, bingo, bingo. Wes, you hit the nail right on the head. That first quarter, having 15 points, really set the tone for the course of this ball game. I think the Boston Celtics went out there, hit them in the mouth early on, took them out any offensive set they wanted to run, and then knocked down threes at a high rate in that first half. But that first quarter, they set the tone.
I thought it was poor defense early on. The Celtics got really comfortable early in this game, hitting a lot of threes. It was Tatum and Brown that set the tone. We told you they're the second best scoring duo in the league, and there was just no resistance, really. When you look at paint points, Washington actually dominated the Celtics tonight, 46-28. The problem is they didn't shoot the ball particularly well. They only turned the ball over 10 times, Drew Gooden. It was their defense tonight. And again, defending without fouling. We've said this 2 games in a row now. Pacers got to the line plus 20 times. Boston got to the free throw line 20 times tonight, and they're converting the free throws. It's not like you're getting to the free throw line 20 and you're only making 6. They got their 20 and they hit 19 of them, guys.
Hey, Drew, I got a question for you. You're a former player, and, you know, we all, as you said during the broadcast, it's just one of those nights, one of those days at the office. Well, how do the Wizards respond? What's that next gear when your face of your franchise is having a poor shooting night? The rest of the team can't hit threes. What's that next gear offensively that they can try to dig into to find ways to put points on the board?
Oh, Glenn mentioned this early on. He said you have to play defense. Extra effort will allow you to get out in transition, get in some deflection, some steals. How much are we missing DeLon Wright right now with that? That ability to have on the defensive end, you will be rewarded from the game, guys, on the other end in transition, just getting those easy baskets, getting the flow, getting your confidence together offensively, and getting into a rhythm. But you have to, it has to start on the defensive end. The effort that needs to be there, the multiple effort. It's not just one or two rotation. It might be the third or fourth rotation that you need to get to and contest those shots.
Well, I know this, as you guys know, the Wizards, for some reason, last year and the year before that, are pretty good on the second nights of back-to-backs. You've got to be at a higher level tomorrow night, because that man Joel Embiid is a problem. Even when the Wizards play well, he's a force. And Glenn always talks about physicality. If you don't bring it tomorrow night, he can put up a big number on you also. And the fact that James Harden loves to attack your paint. We saw Malcolm Brogdon out here tonight do the same thing, constantly in the paint, 2 feet in the paint, and then he kicks out or he gets a layup. So to me, it's about defense, guys. The will to defend tomorrow night will be key for Washington.
You know, guys, I look at this game and I look at the Indiana game, and one thing that they had in common is the fact that the Wizards were not able to get into any type of fast break.
Okay.
You know, and they couldn't get much off their defense. And I thought they were flat on offense. So the good thing about this game, if we're searching a number of different ways, is that, you know, you play a game like this and, you know, you dust yourself off and you go, you know what, run it back. Yeah. They have a chance to run this back, but they got to feel the pain of this loss. They can't forget it. You know, if there was more time to play another game, you know, let's run this back. You can't just be accepting of what just happened there. You got to really make that adjustment, get after guys on defense, and play. You know, you got to play to your strengths. You know what I like this game, guys? Bradley Beal, even though he struggled, he didn't hang his head. You know, I thought he made the right passes. I thought he read defenses well. No, he didn't shoot well. Everybody has games like this. But I thought he played well in the fourth quarter where he could have easily, you know, taken himself out of the game. So I give Brad a lot of credit.
You know what's interesting, too, Drew? We talk about this metaphorical, you know, setting the tone. I'm curious, tomorrow against Philly, what is the tone, by definition, that the Wizards have to set to go out and get a win against Philly?
Well, listen, it has to be a mindset, and it has to be starting with this game and the last game. You let 2 slip away. Hey, look, you just face a hungry team that just dropped 2 games in a row. Boston just lost 2 games in a row. They were, by all means necessary, they wanted to get a win tonight, and you saw that early on in the first quarter. So with that being said, the Wizards, go watch your film, whether it's the mistakes you made tonight, how you can get better, and you got a quick prep for Philly. And tomorrow night, hopefully the first quarter and the second quarter, you can set the tone offensively and defensively on your home court.
You know, Drew, I was thinking about
I agree
this.
with him.
The beginning of a quarter, the beginning of the game is going to be so important for the Wizards tomorrow. The beginning of that game, they got to come out like lightning in a bottle, like the aggressor. They haven't done that the last 2 games.
Indeed. Chris and Drew, we appreciate the call. Looking forward to see you tomorrow night, Capital One Arena, in person. Giving love to my brothers. I'll see you tomorrow night against the Phillies. Excuse me, against Philly, not the Phillies. I'm thinking World Series. Hey, baseball, it is what it is. But let's talk, Glenn, about this. I know there's obvious reasons to look at things that didn't go well for us tonight. But I want to give somebody some flowers early in this show, who I'm probably going to do later on.
Okay.
But he's going to get these flowers now.
Do it now.
Jordan Goodwin. We signed him on a 2-way contract. Comes in, gives energy, great decision-making with the ball. Felt very comfortable watching him with the 1s and the 2s. You and I have been at practice. We've seen him go with the go-go and with the Wizards. Tell people what you've seen about Jordan Goodwin.
You know, it's interesting. First of all, I give Wes Unseld a lot of credit because, you know, the team was flat offensively. The team was flat on defense. What Jordan Goodwin can do is he can defend, and he gets after you, and he stays down in his defensive position, and he plays hard, and he's bouncy. He's always playing on his toes. I like the fact that he didn't rush things and let the way he scored tonight, he kind of let the game breathe, let it come to him. But his strength is his defense. So Wes was looking for some type of defensive pop, but he needed it not just from Jordan, but from the other 4 guys that are on the floor as well.
Here's what's crazy about his stat line, Wizards fans. 18 minutes on, 3 for 4 from the field. That's where his 6 came from. He gave you 2 boards, 2 dimes, a block, and a steal, and only 1 personal foul.
Man, I like old school guys, man. He's an old school guy, man.
I love it.
He's going to come in and give and lay it all on the line. You know, he's hungry.
Yes.
You got to play hungry. Against Philly, man, if you don't play hungry, they're gonna jump you just like the Celtics jumped the Wizards. here in the first quarter. You know, you got to come out and be the aggressor. You got to set the tone, set the pace with your defense. I don't think the Wizards are going to have a problem scoring.
No.
I don't think they do have a problem scoring. I think it's creating offense, creating easy buckets, being the aggressor on defense, making that statement, you know, minimizing the space. Guy goes up for his jump shot, you got to be
close
there.
out.
You got to be there. Tip his elbow a little bit. Show him that you're there. Make him feel you. We didn't see that tonight.
Indeed. As a matter of fact, for more on exactly what happened tonight in the good and bad department, let's go to the post-game podium with head coach Wes Unseld.
I think a lot of it was just lack of communication. Transition opportunities where we weren't quite matched, a little bit of confusion. They do a good job of, you know, attacking early, putting as much pressure on you as possible. But we knew going in they were going to shoot volume threes. So just the urgency and recognition to find those shooters, we didn't have that in the first quarter. So right out the gate, it was bang, bang, and all of a sudden you find yourself behind it a little bit. They're able to build a 19-point first quarter lead.
You guys went through this kind of the last time you were here. Was that at all going through your mind, or were you kind of, I guess, do you say anything to the team about this? Like, guys, we've been here before.
I mean, we've been through situations and stretches where we didn't play well. I'm not dwelling on last season. It's a different group. You know, it's frustrating. You know, you want your team to perform at a high level. I thought we were able to generate some great looks and really struggled to knock shots down. I think that then got us a little gun shy, and we turned some looks down, which, you know, we wind up playing in the teeth of their defense, which is to their benefit.
Were they doing any one thing in particular on offense to throw you guys off, or you just from the beginning, like you said, didn't have the urgency?
Well, I think it was the urgency in the threes. They made 10 threes in the first half, so that in itself is tough to overcome, and 21 for the game. So just that overall awareness, you know, the urgency to get to those shooters, get them off the line, and they do a terrific job of moving the ball. So even when you run out, you close. They drive a secondary close and driving kick. So that scramble mentality, you just have to have it. You know, as you scramble out, you have to have an awareness of who am I running to, and then get that guy off the line.
I'm sorry if I missed something, but Denny, only 11 minutes tonight. Was he feeling something? Did you tweak anything?
No. I just I didn't think he played the way we wanted him to. He struggled defensively, and you know, it's going to happen at some nights. That's okay. He'll get another crack at it.
And one of the, I thought, bright spots at least was Jordan Goodwin's. What did you see from him?
He did it. He did exactly what he's supposed to do. You know, he comes in, he plays hard. He plays with purpose. He defends. Made some plays late, which I think is great. It gives a guy, a young player, confidence to be out there. But I thought he handled himself well.
Are you encouraged by what you've seen from Kristaps so far?
Yeah, I am. You know, I think it's, you know, he doesn't get the enough credit, I think, defensively, but he's been really solid for us in pick and rolls. You know, his length and activity does a terrific job of, you know, bending back to the roll, which in general has been good for us. I know tonight it was a little difficult because they were cross-matched a lot, which, you know, forces him to play a little bit out of position. But I still like the fact that he stays engaged, he's in it. You know, it's one of those nights where you have 3 of your 5 starters really struggle offensively. That's difficult to overcome.
Talk about difficulties to overcome. Right now, we are on sideline with Megan McPhee, our sideline reporter for your Washington Wizards. Megan, do me a favor and talk to me about the most important thing you saw tonight as to why the Wizards couldn't overcome that first quarter.
I think it was the fact that you look at what the Celtics were able to do. I said to you guys in the pregame, do not allow these guys offensively, that's the Celtics, to be able to get to where they want to get to be able to get to their spots at will and with comfort. And I think that is exactly what happened on the offensive end for the Celtics in that first quarter, which is why they were able to blow things open, and this score escalated very quickly. You allow them to get too comfortable too quickly and too early in this ball game, and at that point they were on cruise control, and they were just playing with house money at that point, allowing themselves to play within it. They got a lot of paint touches, not just necessarily paint points, but getting 2 feet in the paint and spraying it out for open threes. There was a lot of that offensively for the Celtics tonight.
Do me a favor. I know you were there. You were able to actually see the activity within the timeouts and on the bench. What was some of the body language and tonal energy that you were seeing from the guys?
Obviously, there's frustration. That is understandable. When you allow a team, when you're on the road, especially with both teams coming off of really tough losses, when you think of the two most recent games each of these teams have played, it's frustrating because you have a scouting report, you have a game plan, you're supposed to execute that. And when things aren't going the way you wanted them to or the way you expected, it can get very frustrating for athletes, no matter what the sport is. And you saw that tonight. But it was the fact that, as frustrating as it was, they continued to try and fight. They continued to try and play the game of basketball and do their job. But you could definitely sense that there was some frustration, but it's the fact that they finished a 48-minute game and they kept their heads held high.
Another one for you, Megan, real quick. We talked about Jordan Goodwin, and I know you have experience with him with the Go-Go, and you've seen him up close and personal. Just kind of, if you don't mind, just shed a little light on the transformation that you've seen when he was with the Go-Go as much, and now what you saw tonight on the court with the Wizards.
Yeah, and you know what? It's not even just Jordan Goodwin, Wes and Glenn. It's also Jordan Shackle. And we saw some of Isaiah Todd tonight. And I know we haven't really seen much of the three of them, but the fact that I had the ability to see them for 30-plus games last season with the Go-Go, obviously they were back and forth when there was that stretch with the COVID situation in the NBA. But the fact that Jordan Goodwin has now taken advantage, along with Jordan Shackle, of the fact that he's getting minutes. He's taking advantage of the opportunity when it's presented to himself. He's utilized the fact that he was in the G League last season. They all have, and they got minutes. And this is what I was saying the other night when you guys were asking me about Johnny Davis and the G League and could this be a match made in heaven. You're actually seeing it in real time with the fact of Isaiah Todd, Jordan Shackle, and Jordan Goodwin. The G League is no longer looked at as a demotion when you're an NBA player, especially when you're a guy on a roster who could potentially be 12, 13, 14, or 15th player, and you're not necessarily getting heavy rotation minutes. The fact that you can go down with your G League affiliate, you can get a lot of minutes, you can see a lot of minutes and get a lot of playing time. You're playing within the actual rotation and the actual scheme of what you want to be in. It gives you confidence, and I think this is something that Johnny Davis could look at. He could talk to Jordan Shackle. He could talk to Isaiah Todd and Jordan Goodwin and ask them what the experience was like, because we may see Johnny Davis with the Go-Go this season, but you saw tonight and you've seen throughout the season, even last season, how positive the G League affiliate can be for guys that are going back and forth and might be called up and have their number called at any moment.
Megan, being courtside, were you able to sense, and you hit the nail on the head, but were you able to sense, like early on this game, that, you know, the Wizards did have the inability to, you know, move this team, move the Celtics into spots that made them uncomfortable. And then it kind of, you know, steamrolled after that. Did you see the body language? Because sometimes when you're courtside, you could see the frustration.
Yeah, I noticed it, especially in that first quarter, because at the end of the day, once the ball was tipped off and jump ball happened, the Celtics punched first, and that's the game of basketball. You've got to punch your opponent first, especially when you're playing on the road. You really have to take the fight to them. And unfortunately for the Wizards in that first quarter, it was the Celtics who punched first at home because they experienced what it was like to get punched by the Cleveland Cavaliers the other night. So you could see the frustration, the body language. It wasn't what we're used to seeing from the Wizards team. However, like I said, they turned it around. They changed the body language. I don't know what was said, and I don't know who said it, but something was said because the body language changed. At the end of the day, nights are never going to be perfect, so you have to weather the storm. And I thought, although the result of this game did not go in their favor, they weathered the storm of fighting back. We saw at halftime, they got it within 10. You had it within striking distance, and it was just an uphill battle. And sometimes when you exert all that energy that early in a game to get back into it, going into the locker room, you can exhaust yourself so that when it comes fourth quarter time, as we saw, I think fatigue played a role in why they just did not have enough left in the tank.
Yeah, you know, Megan, it was one of those nights, you know, and it was one of those nights for me too, because I've been working with this pencil, Megan, that has 2 erasers on it. Right? What's the point?
I knew you had a dad joke in you, Glenn. I was waiting for it all night.
What is the point of having a pencil with 2 erasers on it, Megan?
Y'all are killing me.
I don't know, Glenn.
I'm supposed to go to commercial right now, but I had to let that happen.
I got her.
So here's the deal. Megan, you and Glenn work on your dad jokes. I'm going to show some love to Porzingis, who with that dope dime right there actually helped him have a double-double, 17 and 13. I'll take that, but we want the dub more importantly. We'll break all the rest of this down and get you ready for Philly. Back here in a moment on PostGame Live. Welcome Welcome back to PostGame Live. Unfortunately, after a loss to Boston, 112-94, 112. Wow, I'm tongue-tied today. I'm bewildered. I can't believe it. Anyway, Megan McPeak and Glenn Contor. We're talking positives this block, guys. Positive.
Positive.
Plus sign.
Yes.
Plus, in my world, Kristaps Porzingis. 17
Absolutely.
points tonight, 13 boards, a double-double. I'll take it. What did you see, Glenn?
Yeah, I mean, I like the way he played tonight. You know, he kind of, was able to find his little niche in there. Not enough pick and rolls with him tonight, I will say that, but he did find a way to score and rebound. And I think he's playing hard. The other thing I liked about KP tonight is that, again, he kept his head up. You know, when they were getting steamrolled, he still was able to make shots. Brad wasn't there to make shots. They did go to him in the mid-range, and they went to him around the elbow. He was able to, use his height. His release point is what makes him so tough to guard.
Yes.
He's got that Kevin Durant 80,000-foot release point. You can't touch him, because his release point's so high.
Yeah.
So when you have a guy on him like a Jason Tatum or even an Al Horford, it doesn't matter. He could shoot over him.
Right, that's the thing about it is you can't shoot. I mean, you can't block a 7'3" dude shooting deep threes. But Megan, that's the big guy outside. Let's talk about the guy working the mid-range, Rui Hachimura tonight. Pretty decent production. The thing about Rui's game, it's so quiet sometimes. If you're not paying attention, you might miss it. But Rui definitely added some contributions. Megan, what'd you see?
Without question, he added contributions tonight. You look at his stat line, 13 points. He had 9 rebounds. He was 5 of 12 from the floor. He was 1 of 4 from the three-point line, which isn't terrible. It's the fact, I'm impressed with the fact that he had the confidence and was willing to take those three-pointers, even though they weren't falling for him. He got to the line, 2 for 4. I love the fact that Rui comes off the bench. I think that this is a position for him where he can thrive. Let's be real, 6-man in the NBA is not a terrible job to have. You think of a guy like a Jamal Crawford, who is a 6-man. You look at Rui and what he's been able to do in this role, albeit it is still early on in the season, he looks very comfortable coming off the bench. And I was saying to Drew and Chris on the broadcast, and Glenn, I don't know if you'd agree with me, but Rui coming off the bench, it allows him the opportunity for those first, 5 to 6-ish minutes, depending on when Coach Unseld wants to put him in the game. He can see what is happening on both ends of the floor. He can see how the defense is defending, where he can pick his spots, where he can try and attack and get that mid-range pull-up that we know he loves so much. And then he can see what he can do and how he can have an impact defensively. Glenn, I don't know your thoughts, if you'd agree with me, but I think he is perfect for the Wizards coming off of the bench.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And I think, he provides that pop offensively that they need at that 4 spot, which is real important because that could free up KP as well. So, he plays well with KP on the floor together. He could also play the 5, Rui. So he's that scoring pop that's needed from this team right now. And I like him coming off the bench, Megan. So I think you're 100% right. The other thing I thought they did well tonight, even though it was a flat night, is they hit the offensive boards. Yeah, they were missing shots, but they weren't just sitting there, watching the Celtics get defensive rebounds. They went after it, and I gotta give them some love on the offensive glass. What do you think, Megan?
Yeah.
I would agree 1,000%. I'm looking at the stats right now. They had 16 offensive rebounds for 11 second chance points. That's showing a willingness, to your point, Glenn, to crash the offensive boards and not just settle for one shot and go have to play back on the defensive end. So I thought tonight they made a much more concerted effort to try and crash the glass, and they were able to take advantage of it. We saw Rui get a couple touch passes inside on an offensive rebound. We saw KP get a couple as well, too, especially off that Brad Beal early transition 3 in the first half where KP ended up coming up on a follow dunk. So I thought tonight, the fact that they made a more concerted effort on the offensive glass really boded well for them. Again, unfortunate that they did not get the win as a result, but you can still find some positives and some pointers to take away going into tomorrow night against a very strong and a very good rebounding team in the 76ers.
It's interesting, too, guys, because when you think about Rui, he's been scoring in double digits for the entire season, except for the Bulls game, the first Pacers game, he only had 7. After that, he's been in double-digit scoring the whole time, giving you 5 boards on average. So we've established that Rui's going to give you double-digit scoring. We know what Brad and KP and Kuz are going to do. I'm curious about the next person behind them. Who is that next person that's going to be able to step up? Because there are going to be nights, Wizards fans, where Brad, Kuz, and KP don't score 30 points apiece. It's just mathematically impossible for that to happen every night. So I want to know who's going to slide up into that next lineup and help us out.
I think it's Will Barton.
Okay.
I think he has the he's battle tested.
Yeah.
He's a flat-out scorer. And like tonight, I didn't think he was aggressive enough. And, you know, sometimes the game gets away from you as a player. At any position, it could happen. But Will Barton, to me, is that guy because he could explode. To me, he's like a Lou Williams. He can get you a whole bunch of points in a short period of time. And that's why, to me, he is that guy because, you know, he can come in, he can make threes, but I like his ability to take you off the bounce, slash, and get to the rack. He's also a very underrated passer.
Hey, Megan, I want you to answer that question on the other side of the break. I see what you did there with Lemon Pepper Lou and then the walking bucket. Yeah, it's all good. But, Megan, I appreciate you as always. Ladies and gentlemen, don't move. More Wizards postgame live coming up with Chase Hughes joining the show as well. We're going to get into a bit of a chasing stats that I find quite interesting and a bit spooky. Yes, I did that. You'll see what I'm talking about on the other side. Postgame live back in a moment. Welcome back to Postgame Live. Glenn, let's take a look at our bold predictions brought to you by Greenberg and Better. Remember, go to gblawyers.com and feel better. Now, the predictions for a Sunday afternoon basketball game had Beal and Tatum combining for 60 or more points. Well, you were watching the game, and you saw that that did not happen. Combined 35 points between Bradley Beal and Jason Tatum. So the answer is no to the analysts, no to the viewers, and we continue languish here in just mediocrity, Glenn. We got to get our stuff together. But before we get to that, I want to bring in Chase Hughes.
Chase.
Wizards beat reporter. Shout out to Chase Hughes.
There he
First
is.
of all, you know how I feel about suits, Chase? Well played, sir. I do approve. Now,
looking handsome.
Let's talk about Jordan Goodwin. Yeah, a guy you and I are all familiar. We see him in practice over at ESA. Talk to me about what you saw about Jordan Goodwin tonight and what else you have for me.
Well, obviously there weren't a whole lot of bright spots tonight's game. This was a measuring stick game. We saw it come into the regular season schedule. This was going to be a tough one for the Wizards, but I like what I saw from Jordan Goodwin. You know, obviously the door was opened by Johnny Davis getting into foul trouble, but Goodwin came in. He made a long-range shot, got a steal, got a block, shot 3 of 4 from the field. And what I saw from him tonight was a guy who wasn't scared. It reminded me of a great story that Bradley Beal told us recently. I asked Bradley Beal about Jordan Goodwin getting the final two-way spot out of training camp because Bradley Beal has known Jordan Goodwin since he was in 6th or 7th grade because they're both from St. Louis, and Goodwin played on his AAU team. And Brad said that way back then, when Jordan Goodwin was 12, 13 years old, he could tell that he had a dog mentality on defense. And I know it's a bit of a cliche. He's got that dog in him. But I thought it was really cool that Bradley Beal spotted it then, long before he grew to 6'3", long before he was a 2-time all-defensive guy in the Atlantic 10 at St. Louis, and long before he worked his way through the go-go system to be, right now, a pretty productive player for the Wizards.
Guys, productivity is what it's all about. When your number gets called, you got to answer. But I'm going to bring up another number. How about 6, dealing with, what's Joel Embiid's number? I
6?
should know this. No, it's not. It's 21.
21.
See, Glenn, failed the test, Glenn.
You said 6.
No, see, that's why I confused it. Today's been a day of confusion. But check this out. When you look at Elite Company, guys for over their career, averaging over 18-plus points, 7-plus boards, and 1.5 blocks, look at the names on this list. Anthony Davis, Joel Embiid, and Kristaps Porzingis, the only 3 active players. The rest of those dudes are Hall of Famers.
Keep in mind, these are career average numbers.
Career. So there's a season.
That's not a couple of seasons here and there. That's not easy to do.
This is longevity.
Yes.
The breadth of everything that they've done puts you in this category.
And it shows consistency, and it shows domination.
Hey, so talk to me about this one here, Mr. Hughes, about the proficiency and efficiency of both of these big guys and what we're expected to see tomorrow night.
Well, first on Kristaps Porzingis, there's been this narrative his whole career that he's good, but he can't stay healthy, right? He's talked about it openly. He wants to prove people wrong. He wants to prove that he can stay on the court. But I think when you look at that equation, we focused a little too much on the fact that he can't stay healthy and don't focus enough on the fact that he's really good. I mean, look at that. By that measure, he's not only a really good player, but he stands out favorably in the history of the game. I mean, the other guys on that list are Shaquille O'Neal, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Hakeem Olajuwon, Tim Duncan. So Porzingis going up against Embiid, that's notable to me because I remember back in February when the Wizards traded for Kristaps Porzingis, team president Tommy Shepard, he sat down with Chris Miller and he said, look at Joel Embiid. You know, everyone said he couldn't stay healthy until he could, and now he's a perennial MVP candidate. They're hoping that the same thing happens with Kristaps Porzingis because the talent is undeniable, as those numbers show.
You know what else is undeniable, Chase Hughes? That if you've had the fortune of sliding by ESA to the Wizards practice facility, home of the Washington Mystics, where they play their games as well, you know that there's a cool environment, rather unique environment to this area. And that's all I want to say, because you, sir, wrote a great article, and I want you to take the floor and share with everybody you saw about this rather spooky environment.
Yeah, spooky is a good word for it. I think a lot of Wizards fans probably don't realize that the Wizards practice facility that was open in 2018 is on the campus of an 1800 psychiatric hospital. It's also where the Mystics play their home games, where they won the WNBA championship. It's also where the Go-Go play their home games. But basically, there's a sprawling campus of abandoned buildings that are overgrown with vines and weeds and ivy. And they've been vacant for decades. So I did this huge story. I talked to Wizards players. I read a book about the history of the buildings. I talked to a historian. I talked to the deputy mayor of the city and also the councilman of Ward 8 to talk about what's next for that area, because it also kind of represents DC's future, because some of those buildings are already being refurbished and restored into affordable housing. And there's plans to build a town center outside of the metro stop. So there's going to be a lot more to do around that area, a lot more reason for people to go. But two things that are really interesting. Frank Ross, the VP of college personnel for the Wizards, he grew up just a few blocks away. So he used to take his mom, Lily May, who was a psychiatric nurse at the hospital, to work every day. So he remembers what it was like back then. He knows what it is like right now. And also, one block away, there's an outdoor basketball court that patients used to play on. It was part of their recreational therapy. And I took a photographer to get pictures of that court. And we also went inside the building, the abandoned building that no one's been in for decades. So it was a fascinating story to write.
Chase, first of all, I got to give you a lot of credit, because that was a great article. I was approached recently by someone who asked me if I could select one or two members of the Washington Wizards community and volunteer them to spend a night in one of the so-called haunted rooms in one of the abandoned buildings. So I have nominated you and Wes Hall to spend one night together just bring sleeping bags, no electricity, no phones, and you're going to write about it and put
I've
it on
waiting
air.
on this day.
Hey, Wes.
Yo.
Wes, what we'll do is we'll go right to the exorcist steps in Georgetown right after that and cleanse ourselves.
I've been waiting my whole life to say this. My wife won't let me do that. I do not have permission, so I will be at Mi Casa, where I belong. Chase Hughes, brother, I appreciate it. Thanks for the article. Looking forward for more. Glenn Concert, don't move, because we got to get ready for people ready for tomorrow night back home against the Philadelphia 76ers. We talked about this big paint matchup. Let's get it going, because there's a lot of basketball to be played. Remember, it's early in the season. We don't like losing. Nobody likes losing. But it's all about keeping things in perspective. All right? Calm, patient, steady hand wins the race. We'll be back getting you ready for Wood Sixers in a moment. We're in the film room with Glenn Conch. We're talking perimeter defense, especially when it comes to threes.
Well, Wes, the Achilles heel of the Wizards tonight was minimizing the space on the catch for three-point shooters. Watch how Tatum pops out. Denny gets caught on a kind of a semi-screen, runs at the shooter, doesn't put his hand up, into the motion of his shot, automatic for Jason Tatum from there. Same thing, okay? You look at Jaylen Brown, he steps back off of a screen, and look at the catch. No communication. Kuz got there a little too late. He was able to square his shoulders up, get his feet facing the basket, easy shot. And then the ball movement, give credit to the Celtics, because the ball movement, look at all the Wizards players in the paint. They get out too late to the shooter, and look at the corner shot, wide open. He could have had a cup of coffee, read the paper, even a slice of pizza before he shot that ball.
He could have done whatever he wanted to do. Unfortunately, it was one of those nights for them. But if you noticed during the game, you saw the 6 in the middle of the Boston Celtics court. You've seen the 6 patch on players' jerseys all this season. Why are we doing that? In memory of Bill Russell. I know you got a story, Glenn.
Well, going up to Boston as a freshman, I remember Rick Pitino talking to us about Bill Russell. And back then, everybody was blocking shots, trying to swat it out of bounds and, you know, nasty stuff on block shots. He would tell us, Bill Russell specialized in blocking shots, but keeping them in play to help his team. He was the ultimate teammate. He was iconic in the Boston area, at least when I was up in school.
Now, Bill Russell, when you think about a legend on the court, off the court, in the community, social justice advocate, and
did it all.
You talk about hardware, there's everybody else.
The ultimate
there's Bill
champion.
Russell.
The ultimate champion.
The ultimate. Well played. On the other side, we're going to talk about Kristaps Porzingis getting ready for Wizards Sixers. We see them tomorrow night. And then guess what? We also see them Wednesday. Imperative to get a strong start tomorrow. And who's going to be really responsible for doing that? It's a unicorn. We'll be back in a moment.
Did you say imperative?
Imperative.